supply chain challenges in sesame with reference to financing, logistics, and contract performance. To moderate the session, I now invite Mr. Alok Bhargava, Praramb Agri Trading DMCC. Joining him are Mr. KS Prakash, Hakan Foods, DMCC, Mr. Hubert Simmler, Hubenthal, Clariant, Mr. Ganiyu Daromosu, Consultant, Trade, Finance and Facilitation. This is a very important session and it is very much connected to what we have been discussing for the last 2 hours. Mr. Alok Bhargava, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome to the session Supply Chain Challenges in the Global Sesame Industry. You know, this 2020, we have seen this has been a challenging year for everybody. That's what I've seen. And from the exporter point of view, we have seen challenges as to the logistic issue, as to the container shortages, as to the procedure changes in the origin country or the exporter country. We have seen there are so many issues while for getting the documents and preparing the documents. We have seen during the COVID time, some of the shipping lines, some of the offices were working thrice in a week or twice in a week. Even the banking times was reduced. This work from home culture has put some issues in the physical level. We have seen courier challenges to send the documents from one place to the buyer's bank. It has taken 15 days, sometimes 20 days. We have seen bank challenges, bank being shying away from as soon as the COVID started. We have seen finance level challenges, and of course, we have seen the movement restriction when the most of the airline stopped their movement. And from the buyer's point of view, if I look, they didn't get documents on time because courier was taking time. If their banks are closed, they don't know where to take the documents. Then there was the quality issues, contract issue. So this is just a summary of challenges we are seeing, and we have a team of expert over here, and we'll go one by one to them to see how we can sort out all the changes. First on the line is Mr. Prakash. He's from Hakan Agro, a well-known figure in the sesame industry. So I would like to invite him first to share his presentation on the challenges around contract performance in sesame industry and the way forward. Mr. Prakash.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you. It was a brief and good discussion about the explanations about these discussions. It was nice, Alok. We again come together in another platform. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I can speak, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay. So first of all, I would like to congratulate the Business Solution for organizing this webinar as the second World Sesame Convention. Still, we all, I believe, we remember the first convention, how Mr. Srivastava and his team did it. It was one of the good one in Turkey, Istanbul. Anyway, this is a new idea. This is how we can do as of today. If there were no COVID, probably we would be sitting somewhere and discussing all this physically, but it didn't happen. But no matter, we are forwarding, we find a new way of webinar. So I congratulate the entire team for doing this webinar. Now, before I start my presentation, I would like to remember one of the pioneer of this industry, Mr. Hakan. He has left us during May in this year, and 12th December is his birthday. So, without remembering his contribution, which was immense and incomparable, I cannot start this presentation. I pray for his soul to rest in peace. Let's go to the subject. The subject is, as I said, supply chain challenges in sesame with reference to contract performance. Myself is Prakash from Hakan Agro. I'm heading the sesame desk for last probably 13 or 14 years in this company. we can go to straight away the things. I would, I would like to divide the challenges into main three categories. One is challenges due to logistics, challenges due to short supply, and challenges due to commercial and financial aspects. I will just go through this in the next ones in general, and I will more concentrate on the logistics, and also will say something about the financial and the supply matter in general, because there are other panel members also. They will give, I believe they will give more detailed information about this. So first, it's like logistical challenges. Let's start from Sudan. Sudan is having a very serious problem related to the shipments, which is making shipments delay by 2 or 3 or even 4 months. This actually, they had problems earlier, but from August, I believe the problem started increasing, elevated. The containers, to get containers, the main reason is they have, like in the port, about 7 or 8 cranes, and most of the cranes, port cranes, are not working. They are working with 1 or 2 port cranes. So the export yard is completely full. The import containers, where there are 2 yards, import yard and export yard. The import containers are coming into the import yards, then it is moved to the export yard, where the containers are getting stuffed. But as of today, the position is there is no place in export yard to put the empty containers and do the stuffing. So if you ask for a container release, probably it's taking 2 months or even more to get empty containers. Most of the shipping lines, they are saying that there is no space. Some shipping lines have empty containers, but they cannot move to the export yard. So in this way, even if you get the containers, you stuff it, the vessel waiting time is 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes even 1 month. When the vessel comes, it stays in the port like 1 week, 2 weeks, maybe even more. So most of the shipping lines, they are either not releasing the containers, or they have suspended their operation for another till January, February. Those who have the service, they are doing only one service in a month. So this is affecting. This was not expected beginning of the season. We all know there were problems, but not this much. So Sudan having the biggest logistical challenges, I would say. Second, if you talk about Nigeria, we know about Nigeria earlier. Last 3 to 4 years, we are facing the same problem. Apapa, trucks are not moving to port. It takes weeks for moving few kilometers, and in the port, the container stays. That's one thing. But for that, I think little bit relaxation is happening by doing from One port, which is in Port Harcourt. But Port Harcourt is probably it's faster than Apapa, but it has its own problems. There are no enough empty containers. There's not that many containers operating. Few lines have empty containers. Since it's not a major port for imports, there is no way import containers can be used. And another one, the port is expensive. The infrastructure level is much lower compared to port warehouse. There are no much port warehouses than other facilities available in that port. So still, compared to Apapa, I would say that One port is better than Apapa port. But again, in Nigeria, as one of the speakers told earlier, it's not only just logistics problem. They have other problems like, there is something called bank permit. In Nigeria, we call as NXP. Earlier, it was not necessary. Now you need to open the form. You need to do all the formalities. You need all these things, which is making shipments further delay. Ethiopia, as you know, it's a landlocked country. And the major issue is they have some problems with the Tigray. Tigray, the government, Ethiopian government has some issues with Tigray. And Tigray region is producing most of the sesame seed of Ethiopia. So now, as we said, the harvest is completed, but now the cargoes has to move from Tigray region to other ECS warehouses, especially to Addis Ababa and rest of the places. They are finding it difficult. They are finding transportation problems. So the arrival from growing area to the ECS warehouses and further to the exporters warehouses are very slow. This is affecting the shipment from out of Ethiopia. Burkina Faso is probably one of the best country at the moment if we see in Africa. They, even though it's a landlocked country, even last year also their performance was much better. The shipments are faster, but again, due to currency factor, the cost is high. Can you go to the next slide, please? Now, if we talk about the supply challenges, overall Africa production is lower than last year. That most of the speakers who have given the presentation earlier, I would say they will also agree about this point. Sudan is because of the excess rain in Blue Nile area and also some infestation in Gadaref area, that the production is less than expected. Nigeria expecting a lower crop than expected. Initially, everybody was talking about Nigeria is going to have a good crop or same crop as last year. But as per my recent information, that they also is going to have a short crop, especially Kanu, Jigawa areas. They are having a short crop. And recent information, the central belt, which is more whitish coming, there also the supply is going to be tight. Then when you go to the third one, which is commercial and financial aspect, here also let me just tell you about general information. Because of this shipment delays, the working capital uh, cycle has increased. I wrote it wrong here. Sorry, the working capital cycle has increased. That means you need more funds to do the same quantity of business. Banks are more conscious in lending, especially after the COVID. And most of the banks, they wanted to do a structural lending than clean lending. Strategy changes. Also, this is also some of the old players who are probably in this origination business for last 20 years, they moved into trading. They are now more concentrating on the destinations like stock and sale, rather concentrating in origins. These are the commercial and financial aspects. Now, when you talk about the conclusions, I think we should, there should be some solutions. What I think is that the governments of these countries, especially Sudan, has to seriously think about how to improve the port situations, how to improve the infrastructure. Require various delegations from various countries, especially China, Turkey, India, various destinations to approach these authorities in these origin countries and try to find, and inform them about this, the problems we are facing, and try to improve the situation. And also the associations has to need to play a more important role to address this issue. Thank you. Thank you. If any comments, you can always write to me or always ask me. This is my address. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakashji. And next we have Mr. Hubert Simmler, who is from Hubenthal, Clariant, and he will give us idea on challenges during intermodal transportation of sesame solution. Mr. Hubert, please.
Mr. Hubert, can you please on?
I have to on.
Yeah. Please go ahead. So we can see your presentation. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Again, welcome to everybody listening to us. And first of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee to give Clariant, to give me a chance to introduce or to highlight another topic, which is a challenge during the logistics and along the value chain, you can say, of the sesame trade in the world. And this has to do with the container shipments that are today done very frequently. I guess I can go on full screen first. Is that okay? Is that better?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then, everybody knows that the global trade of sesame is growing due to demand in countries without own production, first of all. And it's done mainly in 20-foot sea container. And you see here on this map a little bit where the shipments are mainly going from the areas of production, which is Asia, which is West Africa, to all around the world. And of course, at the destination point, everybody wants to receive high quality seeds, meaning arriving in dry condition. So this here, for instance, is an example where everything went well, but unfortunately, and I mean, this is not sesame, but it's another agricultural commodity. And for sesame, we have similar pictures sometime. The situation looks like this. And of course, the question is, what happened? So the answer to that question is that we have moisture inside the container. First, it is evaporated in the air. But if the relative humidity in the container rises too high, and then this moisture can at a certain point no longer be held in the air, and then it condenses. And that is an interesting fact. It always starts at the container top, where you here see some droplets. And these droplets, if they are heavy enough, then they drop down. And then this is what we call container rain, which then wettens the load. And as a consequence, then you see starting mold growth. It depends on the temperature, how severe it's getting over the entire journey. But of course, it continues until the seeds are taken out of the bags.
Mr. Hubert, just a minute. You're not moving your slides. If it is not a problem, can we move your slides so that if it is okay?
Sure.
You can stop sharing, sir. We will move it.
Okay. Okay.
That would be easy for you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine.
Please go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So this I explained. Yeah, this is the good situation, and this is the bad situation. Where you see moldy bags. Of course, the mold is also affecting or infecting the seeds inside. And the reason, as I explained, is the droplets that you here see in these upper right-hand side picture. So then please go to the next slide. Yeah, the question, of course, is what can we do about that? And some of you may know already. The solution, can you please click once again, are so-called dry bags. Our product that Clariant offers on a global level is branded Container Dry 2. And this is a high-performance moisture absorber based on latest technology that has the main objective to eliminate this container rain by simply controlling the moisture level inside the container. And of course, this sounds quite simple, but in fact, it is not as simple as we would like, simply because there are so many influence factors that have an impact on the generation of condensed water. Very quickly, I would like to introduce to you how the product works. You see here that once in transit, the container dry bags that can be easily hung to the strapping ice inside of the container alter the moisture content in the air by aggressively absorbing any present water vapor from the air. So this, what we call dehumidification, prevents the air from a complete water vapor saturation. This is also called the dew point, because if the water vapor is completely saturated, then condensation would start. So these kind of dry bags continue absorbing through all temperature ranges and relative humidity variances. But in general, you can say the higher the humidity level inside the container is, the more aggressive a good product would absorb the moisture in order to avoid gaining condensation. Next. Yeah, the water vapor then finally is trapped at a thick no-spill gel, which is important to make the application of the product safe for the people who stuff the container and apply the product in the container, and even more for those people at the destination point who have to unload the container and take off these bags, which sometimes are very heavy because they absorbed a lot of moisture. You see on this screen that the product has absorption capacity depending on the conditions. I mean, here you see different products. First, I have to say that, of course, these products are available in the market on different quality level. And that you can also see from the fact that some products are quite lightweight. These are then the more high absorption efficient products, and other products are more bulky, more heavyweight, and they show more lower absorption capacity. In total, you can say, like shown here, that the range can be between almost 100% of their own weight that can take water, or like our product, it can take more than 200% of its own weight in water under, let me say, practical conditions, which are normally inside of a container during the journey. Okay, please go on. Yeah, and that is why finally, of course, it's hard to say what is really the absorption capacity for a product. A lot of people talk about maximum capacity, and for our product Container Dry, it's more than 400%. But as you may see here, this high capacity you will only get if the product sees constantly conditions of 40 degrees Celsius and 95% relative humidity, which is of course already very close to the dew point, in a situation that we regularly want to avoid by using this kind of product. So what we normally see is this capacity in the middle, which is 200, 250%, an average 220, which is then gained under 25 degrees Celsius and 80% relative humidity, which is a good level to be stabilized and avoid condensation. So that is what I wanted to show you very quickly. 5 minutes is not that much, and I'm very happy to answer any questions that will rise around this topic.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mr. Hubert. Now we would like to move to Mr. Ganiyu, who is the banker and trade finance consultant. Mr. Ganiyu, he can throw us light on the challenges in the financial sector. Mr. Ganiyu.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Powell, Mr. Alok. Okay, I'm sorry, I need to take excuse myself. That the presentation has not been completed, but I will share it with the organizers later. Meanwhile, I look at the trade financing from different angles. I look at the value chain. I look at it from the value chain angle. I look at it from the production, the post-production, the processing, the marketing, and the sales. And I want to look at it from what the governments are doing now and the bankers are doing across Nigeria to make sure that at least things become easier for the investors. Number one, if you recall, in 2019 December, the federal government actually, after the end of the bankers committee meeting, had a meeting and decided that what we run the economy is to they want to run an export-led economy, so that at least the sustainability of the Nigerian economy must depend on little importation and more export. And the first products were actually identified in that committee. The products were the sesame seed, shea butter, cocoa, and cashew and oil. And they look at different analysis to see, okay, how do they best analyze and finance to make sure that the group actually increase. That is, the Nigerian share of that market globally improve. Let me drill down to, or let me first start from the angles of the total facility packages that we have for the products in Nigeria. We have the bankers. Every banks in Nigeria have the products for agri-loan, because in 2010, the banks were actually mandated to have an export desk as well as an agri desk, so that the value chain of that agri and export can actually be well managed from the same banks. In 2018, again, the CBN mandated all banks, and with the deadline of 2019 to say you must have an export desk, you must have an agri desk, and the value chain of agri must be managed successfully very, very well. So that at least Nigeria, the Nigerians' focus was, okay, how do we improve employment? How do we increase access to financing, especially knowing fully well that most people are engaged in farming product, and this farming product become wasted if nothing is done about it. So the product came around and they look at different product cycles. For the CBN, we have a variant of product. Oh, sorry. Hello? Hello? Am I on?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
From the CBN angle, there's a variance of intervention fund, so that at least, the cost of lending or borrowing in Nigeria before now was very, very exorbitant, that beyond the ordinary person, except you have a very good package or you've been in the business and you can actually manage yourself very well. It's about 20, 25, 30 in some cases. So that is not good for agri growth. Now, the CBN intervention came in to actually see how well this can be managed. We have that's Agricultural Agri Development Schemes, Agri-Business Small Scale, that's AGMES, Anchor Borrowers, Creative Industry Financing, Micro Medium Scale. You have the ESF. That's ESF is the Non-Export Stimulation Facility. You have the Real Sector Support Facility, and you have variants of other export-related facilities as well. Why this is actually to make sure that every value chain, every let me use every stop of the agri value chain to the consumption is being financed and provided for. We have Nexim too. Nexim has its own funding, rediscounting facility for export, stocking facility. We have stocking facilities. You have medium guarantee scheme. You have ECOWAS even export facility for the export for the Nexim. But big banks in Nigeria too has their own products, which is how to finance the value chain. Let me take it from this angle, since we are discussing SSMC today. That 2019 discussion went ahead and said, okay, identify the challenges within the SSMC product, that is agri product, and say, okay, one, you need farmers to actually plant. You need to encourage farmers to plant. The more farmer that goes into planting, the more goods for exports, because then Nigeria was seen as number 3 on the export of SSMC globally. But now I think we've dropped to number 4 or number 5. I was looking at ECG's presentation. I didn't see Nigeria there at all. You see that we've dropped off finally, despite all the encouragement. Now, the government look at it and say, okay, there must be an anchor borrower. If there's an anchor borrower, for as long as you have an off-taker at the end of the day, there will be financing. The financing is being managed, is being monitored both by the NASA. NASA is an arm of a CBN that guarantees the project on agri. You have the NASA being guaranteed by that. You have a different strategy to make sure that the anchor program works and the small farmer have access to funding. They look at, okay, after financing, how does exporter get these goods? You have the aggregators or the exporters who actually accumulate this stock. Now, various products are for that as well. This is post-COVID. I mean, pre-COVID. I must be sincere to you, because post-COVID, things have changed, because everybody wants a return. A banker wants to see where his money is going to come from. How do you get these goods out? How do you make sure your money is returned within the estimated period without you extending the facilities? So things have to change a little while, but still the banking are still giving financing. I will say that banking are still giving financing to the export, because it's the focus of the government, and that's why every day, every week, if you see at every CBN meetings, it's always about how do we make sure that the risk identified is mitigated. So you have a stock financing facility or working capital financing facility. You have warehouse receipt financing. You have a contract financing or rediscounting. You have a bill of realization for banks. And you have different products. See, it's not every exporter, I must say, that can access this, because you're in the past, I must tell you, even myself, I've got my finger burned several times, that where you ensure that, okay, because this company is big, from looking at the past, it's past determine the present for you to actually judge. Because bankers, what we look at your financials, we look at your trade profile, you look at where you've been supplying, how long you've been in the business, and we assume that, we must be comfortable not that we drop all our guards. Hey, we say we must be comfortable. So you want to actually encourage the customer to buy more, reducing the kind of cautions or blockage you put on the customer's way. But in the past, I tell you, most banks got their finger burned. So these days, because of the COVID and the effect of the COVID on logistics, and the cost of not only logistics, even in payment, because you see some countries getting access to funding there because the manufacturers are not working. When they're not working, who buys this product? How do you get your fund back within the stipulated period so that you can actually roll over the district? Because the turnover of the fund is what makes the bank get or whatever income they make from it. It's not putting the money down and say the carrying interest. The more you turn it over, the more you provide access to others to access it. So, in terms of the product, variants of products are kind of been created by the government, and I must say this. But however, we need to work together. What we do these days is, okay, we look at each customer on its own merits. Who is this customer? How has it been performing? You know, this is a cycle. It's like a cycle. Everybody, if you look at it very well, 10 years ago, we were in this. We were not in this COVID, but we were in one problem. And again, how does this customer behave when there was a challenge? Bankers, we talk to ourselves, we do due diligence and all those things. You find out, okay, who is this customer? If this is a new customer coming into this play too, how does this customer play? What is his past? Because now we have credit bureau in Nigeria too that works. Even if it's not in Nigeria, how do we link up with our colleagues in other countries to say, this customer has just come into our country? Who are they? How are they performing there? Do they have a kind of can you share with us in confidence the kind of their credit histories? With that, we build up a file for the customer to say, yes, we can. Yes, we can work with you. If it's a local person too, how has it been? In Africa, they say, I can tell who you are by looking at your neighbors or the kind of friends you move with. So we will be able to tell, who is this customer? What has he been doing all this while? Is it new to this business? How much can we trust him with? But now the banks are coming up with different areas of product to make sure that financing is not a problem. The quality of finance too. I'm telling you, the quality of financing now is what
we have a little bit restriction in time.
Okay, let's go. I've actually mentioned the products that we have that everybody can access.
Of course.
Yes, yeah. And a structured facility can actually be done for every exporters. We look at it differently.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ganiyu. I will, because time is short, so what I will do, I will just take a few questions from all these speakers, and I will go in the sequence which they have done it. So I will start with Mr. Prakash. Mr. Prakash, you said at all the origins, you know, Burkina is having a currency issue, the others having a short crop issue. So how do you feel? What is your outlook on the prices in the coming month?
As you can see that the prices in Nigeria started below 1,000. It even went to 980, 990 levels. Then it gone to 1,300 plus levels. This is actually an indication of all these problems. I would say that, you know, probably there with these ranges, you know, you should not forget the COVID, little bit problems in the destination countries like Turkey, where they have the currency issues. India is not going to be a big importer in volumes. China still, they will continue. So I would say that plus minus, you know, any prices between, I'm not talking about the Ethiopia, but probably for Nigeria, probably anything between 1250 to 1350. Burkina whitish is anything between 1300 to 1400. This range should be there because the prices already corrected itself. Almost like $300 already corrected from the time the crop started. This is a clear indication why it has moved up is because of the shipment problems and the crop problems.
Okay, and what do you feel about this Sudan port situation? Is it likely to improve?
It will take time. It will take time. Sudan, because the problem is with the port, unless the Sudanese government is repairing the cranes or bringing new cranes, all these are going to take time. Probably the whole season, I don't think there is a, big improvement is going to happen in Sudan, but things can be better. the delays can reduce in the coming months, but to normalize the situation, probably it will take a year or even more.
And just an opinion of yours, because of this all congestion problems, the procedural changes in Nigeria, and all this container issue problem, do you feel like GAFTA we should have some provision of delay basis, 1 week delay allowed or something like that in the contracts?
Actually, if you talk about GAFTA, see, nobody is following FOSFA or GAFTA contracts. If you go through that, nobody is following that contract, because GAFTA and FOSFA clearly says the moment you deliver the containers to the shipping line, you can take a receipt for shipment bill of lading, and it is actually valid, because when the containers are with the shipping line, you are, as per the GAFTA, you are eligible to take a bill of lading, and which is considered as the shipment when you deliver the containers to the shipping line. In our trade, okay, grains and all, okay. But in our trade, all the players, buyers, especially buying side, are small players. They don't understand this. But there is a provision in GAFTA like that. Even if the moment you deliver the containers, your job is finished.
Okay. And the last question to you, in one of the presentation of Ethiopia, Mr. Asefa mentioned that this year they have a lot of defaults from buyers. You have any comment on that?
I would say that Ethiopia is like a give and take. Recently you can see that it's not one-sided, because a lot of Ethiopians also exporting, defaulting. The prices were around 1,300 range. It went up to $1,500, and there were a lot of defaults from Ethiopia. Similarly, earlier there were some defaults from the buyers, but I heard more about sellers default than buyers default.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Prakash. Now we'll move to Mr. Hubert. Mr. Hubert, one of the person has asked that sesame is on how many dry bags needed for a container, and he has just asked the indication. But I will just ask this question: what specifically you will recommend for sesame seed?
Yeah. We have a clear recommendation for agricultural commodities and differentiate. Of course, we have a specific one for sesame as well. And this is for 20 food container between 2.5 and 5 kilogram of our absorber. And the differentiation is simply because of the time of the journey. The shorter the journey, the lower the amount of absorbent needs to be. Of course, this is already a problem to decide, because first of all, the shipping line gives you a certain lead time for the container, but very often you cannot be sure that it is not prolonged, because there's an unplanned stopover in one other harbor, or the next connection vessel was full and the container has to wait for a while. So we say in general, for less than 30 days, it's 2.5 to 3 kg. And for more than 30 days, you should go up to 4 to 5 kg. And here, of course, it's up to the final customer. I guess I mentioned that we have different product configurations. We have, for instance, bags for hanging with 250 gram. We have strips with 750 gram. We even have huge bags with 1.2 kg. So then you can simply divide this recommended total amount by the weight of the single product, and then you have the number of products needed. And as an indication for the cost, of course, we are not selling directly. We have our distributors in Africa, in India, and we are further growing the network of distributors in Africa. But I would like to give as an indication about $10 per kg of our adsorbent, meaning if you use 3 kg of absorber per container, it's $30 roughly, plus minus. Yeah.
Okay. And one more question for you. Are your products available at the various West Africa or East Africa or in any of the African regions?
Yes, as mentioned, we started growing a network of distributors. In India, we have several. In West Africa, we have one in Nigeria, one in Ivory Coast. So I would say in some of the hotspots, we are already present, but we are currently growing this distributor network further. Whenever demand comes up, interested person should send me a mail, and I will forward that to the nearest point or give the information about that. Yeah.
Okay, that's so nice, Mr. Hubert. Thank you. And
Thank you.
we'll move to Mr. Ganiyu.
Yeah.
Mr. Ganiyu, we have one question that he says sesame is one of the 19 strategic crop for Nigeria. What is the quantum of financing that goes to sesame in a year pre-COVID, and how much goes to the financing production, and how much it goes to the export promotion?
Thank you, Mr. Alok. I can't give you the exact figure now. Let me take it from this angle. You know, we have variants of products. The anchor borrowers goes for the farmers for productions. I don't have the figure offhand now, but I can always get it out. An anchor borrowers scheme focus on the farmer, and there's a specific department within all the banks that work on the different products. You have the maize, you have sesame seed, and other products as well. The amount is actually depending on how much and the value. The initial amount allocated for that was about 8 billion, but I think it has moved up severally. The CBN and even the banks have actually moved up beyond the CBN figure. Each bank still has its own fund, and you don't forget that the Hagmesis funding too. That 10% of each of the banks' profit before tax is actually set aside for the Agmes financing. It's there too for farmers to access, for you and I to access as well, in order to actually make sure that increase production. Then you look at even the equipment too. It depends on the value is actually not the important thing. Is what are the quantity? Do you have the contract to being able to pay? If you look at the sesame seed production, yeah, you can borrow up to say, maximum of 10 billion per customer, and with a moratorium of initially 1 year, and the interest rate of 9% now because of the COVID, it has been reduced to 5%. You can imagine how many exporters we have in Nigeria that want to clean or have equipment to actually do all those things. So you can't determine. It depends on how much the fund is available to be disbursed, and again, who are these customers? Because you see, while you have the fund available, you look at the customers too. I told you in 2012 or 2016, I got my finger burned by financing some exporters. Yeah. Okay. So every bank look at it because the credit risk is still there for the banks.
Yes, of course. And Mr. Ferders wants to ask you that direct actors, producer, traders, and processors in Burkina Faso have access to finance as their first challenge. So he's asking, can you support those people from Nigeria? I think your bank has got a branch in Burkina, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, I left Jacoba a few months ago. But yes, but let me take it from this angle. Now, let's go back to that 2018 when the CBN set up a kind of a committee, backers committee, committee. They identified those banks that have network across Africa and beyond, to look at it and look at the export in totality and see the challenges, financing challenges. So all the banks, including EcoBank, EcoBank has financing, and in fact, it's actually managed from the group. And if the guy can get in touch with me, I can actually work with him on that for Burkina Faso.
Okay, that will be very nice. And one last question, you know, in some of the countries in Africa, we have seen, you know, export packing credit like thing. But I think in Nigeria, there is no such system. Can you comment on that?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Especially for the exports, you know, against ALCs or against contract, there is no financing. Or is there any financing?
No, there is. Okay, without mentioning name, let me tell you, 2014, 15, Bismarck products, their export financing was against the inward LC.
Okay.
So I don't want to mention names where we do. That's why if you look at the product I read out, we have a discounting, financing against import LCs. I mean, inward LCs. You have bill levelization and all those things. You have guarantees. We do. And even Nexim, apart from the banks do it on their own because it's part of their product. Then Nexim, their BOI and the CBN too has a kind of different product that attack that. Whoever is having challenges actually get in touch, we can have a discussion on that. That's part of the advice we give to the customers now on how to access the funding without challenges and without much hassle. It's available, I can tell you that.
It's available. Okay. I think thank you very much. I think we have listened to very expert and I think very good guidance from finance sector, from contract challenges from Mr. Prakash, and also how to protect our material while transporting from origin to the destination, as Mr. Hubert has guided us. So I
Mr.
will.
Alok,
Yeah.
Mr. Alok, can I add something to you? You see,
Yeah.
as an exporters, for banks look at record. Record keeping is very key, very, very key. They identify, if they look at your record critically and they look at who your partners are, they try to see who is this customer, has he been keeping proper record so that they can actually assume what is the need now and how much do we think it can grow. Then they look at your partner as well. You know, it's a global world now. We can actually connect and say, who is this partner?
Okay.
Has he been blacklisted somewhere? What's his pedigree and all those things? So in looking for financing too in Africa, you know, Africa we're just evolving. You need to have a good partner and you need to keep good records. If your record is straight, I tell you, every bank today, because it's mandated, any bank that doesn't meet these ratios is actually sanctioned every month.
Yes, of course. Yeah, everybody needs to keep their record clean so that bank can approach them and bank can support them. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Prakash, Mr. Hubert, and Mr. Ganiyu. And I think we will end our session here as time has also finished. So over to you, Mr. Shasta.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alok Bhargava. It was really a very different session. The panelists very nicely brought out various challenges in supply chain, whether it is COVID or no COVID, and also suggested what is the solution in the best of their opinion. Thank you so much to Mr. KS Prakash, Hakan Agro, DMCC, Mr. Hubert Simmler, Hubenthal from Clariant, and Mr. Ganiyu Daromosu, Consultant Trade Finance and Facilitation, for your presence and guidance on this very critical subject. And thank you for an excellent moderation, Mr. Alok Bhargava. Thank you very much. I had to be really harsh on you to push it because we wanted to finish on time. So thank you so much for doing an excellent job. Thank you very much, all the panelists.